So, I mean, it's kind of
You
like...
didn't make work or look at work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the
For an
goal
entire year.
And the goal was the goal of that. We said pointedly, so.
Yeah, it was pointed in the way that I made a decision on one day, and I was like, until this day of the next year, I'm not going to look at or make work. And that was... Did we start school 2018?
2018.
Yeah. So September of 2016 until September of 2017, I didn't make or look at work.
And then September of 2017,
I made a bunch of work in 4 months, very quickly, applied here, got in. Everything I made was at home, and it was a fucking nightmare. And then went to Europe for a while, and then didn't make work again until I came here. So there was this weird lull that happened in that period where by the time I got here, I had all of this stuff that I was like, once I get a studio and I have space, these are all the things that I want to do. So in transparency, it was kind of like I blue-balled myself.
So that was part of the reason, is you had all this shit stored up, and then...
Well, for that 1 year where I didn't do anything or look at anything, I was trying to decide if I, A, wanted to look at academia ever again or go back to it. B, if I still had interest in being a visual artist, and if after a year of not engaging, if there was anything there, or if it was a thing where I was like, oh, I spent all of this time doing it in undergrad, so this is just my trajectory, and here's where I'm going, it's my career. And that was very important to me.
To know.
Yeah.
To know for sure.
Like, if I took a year off, would I still care?
Right.
Or would I just find money in something else and not give a shit?
Right, exactly. Well, that's a good test. Is that sort of fallow period type of thing? Is that something that matters to you now, or was it just at that then it felt important to do that?
I'm so happy that I did that. Yeah, I think the one thing that I kicked was this thing that a professor that I had for junior and senior year in undergrad, like, impressed on all of us, that even if you have no inspiration and nothing, you just have to keep working. And once you get to a point where you have, like, nothing to say or nothing to do, like, task yourself with making one painting a day for, like, 2 or 3 weeks and see what happens. And everything was he was a Capricorn, so everything was, like, production, material, like, that, like, go to New York shows, whatever. It doesn't work for me.
Got it.
And anytime I would do that, my work would spiral into ways that... There were, like, rabbit holes I would get myself into that in the sensation of doing that and, like, craving feeling like a productive, artistic person, I would all of a sudden start to make work that, looking back on it 6 months later, I'd be like, what the fuck was that? Like, none of that matters. I don't give a shit about any of that. It's literally in the trash. It's gone. Which is a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of effort. I could have been reading, I could have been drinking at the beach or doing anything else. So in that period of time when I wasn't doing anything, I was like, yeah, this entire weird, like, I have to be working and I have to be making something. And if I'm not making anything, I should at least make grounds to prepare for when inspiration hits me. And I could care less about that.
Okay, so we're against busy work.
No busy work.
No busy work. I like that.
No busy work. And I mean, it was also in, like, coming here this semester why I'm like, I don't have anything to show. I'm like, I'm 30 years old. Like, please ask me about how much I give a shit about having busy work to show you. And it would just be like, am I interested in this? No. Do I care? No, but here it is. Like, please give me a grade.
Right.
I don't want to waste anyone's time. Mine or anyone else's.
So do you think those are thoughts about academia, or are those thoughts about are those thoughts about art school, or is that sort of more the way that you work, is like, if sometimes I just don't care to do it, or like I don't have things that I want to make, and sometimes I do, what is it that actually keeps you coming back?
Yeah. It's all of those things. I think American education is a very specific thing. I mean, American capitalism is also a very specific thing, and those things they're mirrored throughout the rest of Western culture too. But here, I think the thing that shoots people in the foot first is the specialist attitude, where you're going to be trained to become a specialist in your field, and like nothing else matters. Maybe you can like throw on some electives here and there, but this is what you're doing. You decided at a certain age, and you move forward. And the fluidity and movability is just not there. And the idea of commodity and object and outcome is so important to people. And I've never cared about that, and I tried putting on that hat for so long, and I don't care, and I'm not interested in work like that either. Like oh my god, Mike Cloud, his lecture, I feel like is a perfect example of that. Like, he's thinking about all of these things that can be really interesting and have to do with like human categorization and like different levels of empathy and sympathy and Venn diagrams of things, and spiral off into all of these tangents. And then you look at the paintings, and it's like you just tasked yourself with making a painting out of stretcher bars and paint, and like none of this matters, and it doesn't talk about what you were talking about 10 minutes ago at all. And I find myself in that trap so many times, out of just being like, well, you just have to get in there and make something. And then it's just embarrassing, because there are things, I'm sure with him too, if you like look in the trajectory, where they do line up and they meet, and it's nice, and you can just erase entire pockets of time where I guess you could try in hindsight to argue that making like a ton of shitty paintings for a year got you somewhere. But I don't know. I feel like that is better spent like reading and finding things you're actually curious about than beating your head against the wall. It's just such a like Puritan thing. Like, work hard and God will reward you. And there are so many atheists around today who just are a bunch of pilgrims in that way.
Yeah.
It's boring.
Oh, it's very true. All right, so let's talk about books a little bit then.
Okay.
So the last time I was in here, well, and now, lots of books on the table.
They're in a stack now.
They're in a stack now, yeah.
And now after that,
for those listening at home. Yeah, they're in a stack. So some of them were sort of zines, some of them were artist books, some of them were real books. And
books.
Your artist book last year was quite involved, I think we could say. So, what I wrote here is, tell me about the book as a form and how you relate to it in your practice and in your reading life.
That's an easy question.
There you go.
You touch a book.
You
don't touch paintings. It's 4D versus 2D. So just in the form in and of itself, you have to consider time and it as an object, whereas painting you don't. And you can easily squeeze in narrative things, writing, discourse, whatever you want, and it sits well. And that way it's, I guess, kind of a cop-out. But also the economic side.
Why?
of
Just because it
things.
works? Because it does these things?
It's because like I can print out text and put text in either of those books, and no one's gonna cry.
Right.
But if I printed out text and put it on my painting, it's like we have to talk about why and like the history of text art and all of the people who come before you. So like the form lends itself to that kind of fluidity. But then economically, it also speaks more to the idea of the multiple and affordability, and not only who looks at art, but who is art for in class structures. And it's very simple and straightforward in that books are things everyone has and has